Where Are They Now? I am with former 15-year NBA swingman Grant Long, who played with the Atlanta Hawks, the Miami Heat, Detroit Pistons, did both stops with the Grizzlies in Memphis and Vancouver before settling down in Boston. And how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. You call me a swing man, but I'm a power forward, dog.
You played power forward, shooting forward?
I played power forward probably the first 10 years of my 15-year career, and then the last 5 years I was between small forward and power forward.
Now we're here at your old stomping grounds in Eastern Michigan. Tell us about your time at EMU and the competition.
Hey, man, it was MAC Conference. At that time, the MAC Conference was thriving. We're talking about 84 through 88. Some great names that I had a chance to play against, namely Ron Harper, Chicago Bulls fame. He went on to play 12-13 seasons in the NBA, played for the Lakers and won a championship there. So our conference was very good during that time, that stretch. And even got better even after I left. But it was a wonderful time to be in the MAC Conference. As you can see behind us, a lot of trophies in our trophy case that I feel very proud that I helped put a couple in there myself. So it was a great time during that span, 84 through 88, and then even beyond that.
It was the EMU's opponent, like the rival when you were there.
My rival was Dan Marley, Thunder Dan Marley. He played at Central Michigan University. Both of us were up for the MAC Player of the Year honors. He was up for it in 86 and 87 and 88. This just goes to show you how good this guy was. He could shoot the ball, he was strong. But he was beat out by a guy from Eastern Michigan University in his final season in '88. I was able to garner that award, and I kind of kid him about that every time I see him because he was up for it. He was destined to have that MVP trophy, and I came on in the final season, in our senior season, and really had a great year. Our numbers were very comparable. He had 22 points, around 9 rebounds or so, and I averaged 23 points and about 10 rebounds. So we were very comparable as far as our numbers were concerned. But our team won the MAC Conference, and it was our first time going into the 64-team tournament in the school's history. So a lot of those things played a big vital role, possibly, in me getting that MVP trophy.
What was the anticipation for y'all guys headed into the NCAA tournament? Were you guys excited or just going to pull upsets?
It was exciting, but I got to tell you, at the beginning of that season, my point guard's name was Howard Chambers. We had a long conversation over the summer, and all we talked about was winning the MAC Conference. That's all we ever wanted to do. We wanted to put rings on our fingers as MAC Conference champions. And we looked at the schedule and we sat down and we talked about what game we could possibly win. We ended up going 22-8 for that year, but we had no idea of getting into the 64-team tournament. Our main goal was going into the season was to win the MAC championship outright. And that's exactly what we did. We won the MAC Conference outright with maybe 3 more games to go in the conference. In conference play. And we reached our goal. We were very excited about that. We got our rings, we got to cut down the net, we were right here at home when we won, so it was a great feeling, man, to be able to say, okay, we started something over the summer and said, we're going to do this, and by the season's end, we're going to be champions. And we did that. We were able to do that, so that's a very, very nice feeling to be accomplished that way. Now, going into the tournament, obviously, we had never done that before. Like I said before, it was the first time in the school's history that we made the 64-team tournament. So all of us, everybody, the coaches included, were very excited about it, but didn't know what to expect. And we got down and we went to Nebraska. That's where the first part of the regionals were. Played Charles Smith, Demetrius Gore, guy from Detroit, and the Pittsburgh Panthers, I think they were called at that time. And boy, they put it to us pretty good. And I don't even think we were ever in the game. We were so much in awe of just being in the tournament. And even to speak to that a little bit more, I'll give you a perfect example. That year was the 50th anniversary of the NCAA tournament, and they gave every team, every participant, watches with the gold insignia 5-0 50th anniversary on the face of the watch. And I still have mine to this day, obviously, but that was one of the great memories of making the tournament for the first time, to be able to have it commemorated on the 50th anniversary.
When did you start first hearing buzz that you can get drafted into the NBA?
Well, I got to go back even further than that because I never had any intention on playing in the NBA. My main objective when I went to school was to graduate, get to school, and be done with it. If the NBA came calling, that was a byproduct of me being here, playing well, doing what I needed to do. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't start in my freshman year here. I got better as I went along. My numbers started to increase as I went along. And as I mentioned, 22 points, 23 points in my senior season here. So the buzz started to happen when around the same time that I was mentioned possibly as an MVP candidate of the conference. And all of a sudden, there were scouts in the stands. They were getting, rumors about this and this and this and this. And then you had a lot of coaches in the conference as well that used to talk and say, well, boy, I could hear Jim Larrañaga. He's the coach at the University of Miami right now, but he was the coach at Bowling Green during the time that I was playing. And he mentioned it. And I remember this vividly because he came from Virginia University, where he coached Ralph Sampson and Rick Carlisle. So I said, wow, this is a guy that knows exactly what he's talking about because he's coached some pro players. And he said, well, I hope Grant Long decides to go hardship. This is what he said after my junior year. And I'm thinking to myself, go hardship? That was never even on my mind to go hardship. But here's a coach saying, I hope that he does. And that kind of put a buzz in my ear saying, wow, if this guy thinks that I can possibly play in the NBA, then perhaps that dream could come to reality.
All right, you was drafted in 1988 by Miami Heat. Was that an expansion team?
Yes.
So you were excited because you get to have guaranteed playing time.
Not so much the guaranteed playing time, but my excitement was because at that time my favorite team, although I'm from Detroit, my favorite team was the Showtime Lakers. And I'll tell you what, they played an up and down style of basketball. My favorite player of all time is Magic Johnson. He came from about maybe an hour and a half from where I grew up in Lansing, Michigan. So he was very, very easy to follow in every step of his career. So I followed him a lot, followed him all the way out to Los Angeles and followed his career there. So I was very excited with an opportunity to play in the NBA and possibly with the Lakers. But when I realized getting drafted by Miami in an expansion team, I put them side by side and said, this is the best place for me to be in Miami, simply because when you talk about going to a Laker team as a second-round pick, you have, at that time, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Byron Scott, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Thompson. You got all of these guys, Kurt Rambis, those guys are still playing, Mitch Kupchak. All these guys are championship caliber players. Billy Thompson was on the team at that time. I'm thinking, wow, I'm a second-round pick. The odds of me making that team with all of those all-star caliber players, they would have to cut somebody, eat their contract pretty much in order for me to make their team. Well, you flip that on the expansion side, pretty much got 12 opportunities to make a team because everybody's new. It's like, okay, I'm going in, I'm going to prove myself, I'm going to beat these guys out. If I don't beat this guy, I can beat that guy. If I don't beat this guy, I can beat this guy, on down the line. So for me, I looked at it as more opportunities to get into the NBA by being drafted by an expansion team, and it worked out that way.
How was the culture in the locker room? Was it fun, or you guys?
It was a lot of fun because for the most part, it was all young guys on the team, that first-year players. We had maybe four guys that were taken in the expansion draft, so there were veteran guys on our team. But the young guys ruled it because they were first and second-year players in the NBA, and most of the time when you go to an NBA team, the veterans have the say-so, but we outnumbered them very easily, so we kind of ran the show. We didn't know what we were doing, but it was pretty much a mutiny the first day of training camp when they had us try to do stuff, and we were like, no, we're not doing that stuff. We're running the show here. You veterans are going to have to fall in line. That's exactly what happened. But it was a great time, man. Interestingly enough, talking about the first year, we lost our first 17 games in a row. Imagine starting your professional basketball career and you lose the first game. You lose the second game, third game, fourth game, fifth game. Up to 17 games in a row, we tasted defeat. On our 18th game is when we all of a sudden had the bite of success and got a win. And here's the irony of that. Our first game of my professional career was against the Los Angeles Clippers. We proceeded to lose the next 17 games until we got to Los Angeles and played the Clippers again. That's when we got our first win.
Y'all got your first win. What did y'all guys do? Y'all celebrate your party?
It was like a celebration because imagine if we lost our first game when we were at home in Miami, but we won our first game in LA. So we're in LA with our first win under our belt in our NBA careers. Imagine the surprise and the celebration that took place being in LA with young guys and a whole lot of time on our hands.
The next year, who came in the next year? Y'all got Glenn Rice?
Got Glenn Rice, we got Steve Smith. We got some more help from Romulus, or not from Romulus, I should say, just from the state of Michigan, and that made me feel great too. Because as a matter of fact, I watched the NCAA championship, and Glenn Rice, my cousin Terry Mills, was playing on that Michigan team that actually won in '89, and it was, I mean, you talk about having a manna from heaven, to have a guy like Glenn Rice shoot the ball as well as he did, to come on our team, it was exactly what the doctor ordered. Our team was so much better to have him on it.
How were y'all guys? Were y'all guys close?
Ironically, I didn't know Steve. I heard of him. As a matter of fact, when I was here at Eastern, we played Steve in my senior season. He was a freshman. I didn't really know him, but I knew of him. I didn't know Glenn, but I knew of him. I knew he was a great player, shot the ball well from the Flint area. Willie Burton, I knew Willie Burton. I didn't know him personally, but I knew who he was. I knew he played in the PSL, during the high school times. And to have all those guys on the same team, there was so much synergy, it was like having old friends on your team because we could talk about some of the same things. Hey, going down to Detroit, playing at St. Cecilia's, or playing against certain guys that we all came across in our young careers. We got to challenge and exchange those stories. That was always good conversation on the bus, on the plane rides, and so forth.
And a year after that, y'all made the playoffs for the first time.
We made the playoffs for the first time. I believe it was after year 2. It was a wonderful feeling. As a matter of fact, we kind of, they say now, we backdoored our way in because we all gathered at my house on the final game of the season because we were done, but we needed somebody else to lose in order for us to get in. So we were having a watch party at my house in Miami. And oh man, when that final buzzer went off, and I can't even remember the team that lost in order for us to get in, but we knew we were getting in, and there was just like celebration all over the place. The city of Miami, you imagine the first time it's a professional basketball team in South Florida, and now they're going to the playoffs. How about this? Your first time getting into the playoffs, and guess what your reward is?
I play Chicago Bulls.
Bam. You meet Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Thanks a lot. So that was our reward for getting into the playoffs. But at the same time, we were so excited. Imagine a bunch of young guys, almost at the peaks of our career, very excited. We're going against Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and the Lovables, as they were called at that time. And it was a wonderful feeling to be able to be in that playoff atmosphere. When the playoffs start, we have a saying in the NBA that the rest of the league, they're watching you now. There's only 16 teams that are playing at that time. Everybody's watching you. And that's a great feeling, knowing that the entire basketball community is fixed on you, watching you playing your game.
How did your team go into facing the Bulls? Did you guys just like, hey, we're just going to give it all we got?
We went in with a lot of optimism. But there was that guy on the other side wearing number 23 that seems to be doomsday, or spelled doomsday, for not only our team, but for a whole lot of teams, to the tune rather of 6 championships. So, when you knowing that you're facing a good player, a great player like Michael Jordan and the rest of that team, yeah, you still feel like you have a chance to win. But when you get into a game and then all of a sudden it becomes crunch time, even as players, we recognize where our deficiencies were. We understood that this is why he's Michael Jordan. This is why the Chicago Bulls continue to win championships, because they were able to take their game to another level that we had never even seen before.
And then the next year, y'all went to playoffs again the next year.
Yes.
Yeah, did y'all play Atlanta?
Atlanta Hawks. Yeah.
And I remember, I seen this stuff.
Stop it. You better not say it. You're talking about the brawl.
The brawl. How did that change the series? Did you guys, if y'all guys didn't get involved in that brawl, you think y'all were able to win that series?
You know what? I really do think we could have. At that time, the Atlanta Hawks had one of the best records in the NBA. I remember they had won 57 games, won the Central Division that year. They were playing some pretty outstanding basketball. And that game was getting out of hand. There was some physical play, some rough fouls that wasn't called. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. Glenn Rice got beat to the basket, and Dwayne Farrell kind of started mouthing off to him. I stepped in defense to Glenn Rice and let my emotions get the best of me. Let my emotions get the best of me, and it got out of hand. And that was my first incident in the NBA where there was any violence that occurred that involved me. And I was very disappointed in my actions at that time. Commissioner Stern let me know that he was disappointed in my action as well. He suspended me for 1 game, fined me quite a bit of money as well.
Yeah, I just remember seeing Keith Askins, the sucker punch somebody.
Yeah. Hey, my team came to my defense. We were all over that floor. Steve Smith was out there. Our head coaches were out there. It was not something I'm very proud of, to be quite honest, because there were, as I remember it, there were a lot of things that could have went wrong, as Commissioner Stern told me later on in our phone conversation, because there are police officers that are on the floor around the court, and as he mentioned to me, and he said to me, what if one of the fans came onto the floor. All of a sudden, they grab one of the officers' firearm, and all of a sudden, that person is running around the arena firing off a gun, all because I incited a riot.
Yeah.
So that's why my fine was so hefty, because all of the things that could have happened, and that was my fault.
And then the next year, you was traded
Wow.
to the Hawks.
Imagine that. Get into a brawl with this team in the playoffs, and then the very next season, I think it was 8 games into our season, I get traded along with Steve Smith to the Atlanta Hawks. So
when you walked in, you was like, hey, I'm sorry about the playoffs.
hey, you know what? Here's the thing. It's like Bill Laimbeer. Bill Laimbeer is one of my favorite players. But if you ask anybody that played against him, they would say they couldn't stand him. They had a very high dislike for Bill Laimbeer. But anybody that played with Bill loved him, because he was a guy that was going to have your back in anything that went down. He was a tough, physical, mentally tough player. And you want those guys on your team. So going now to the Atlanta Hawks after that brawl the year before, it gave me that kind of that credibility of a Bill Laimbeer, because I did work hard, I did fight for my teammates, I did stand up for them, and like I said, every team would love to have a guy like that. So I came to the Hawks after that incident with open arms. I was received with open arms.
Who was the first person to greet you?
I believe it was Mookie Blaylock. It was Mookie Blaylock and obviously the head coach, Lenny Wilkins, at the time. But I had no reservations about going to the Atlanta Hawks after that incident, because like I said, you know, we're all men out there and we're standing up for one another, and we're playing in a game that a lot of people would say is a non-contact sport, but the players understand that it's a full contact sport on a daily basis.
And you guys went to the playoffs. Y'all played, you went to the second round, did you?
Went to the second round. Matter of fact, we played Chicago in the second round. We ended up losing to those guys, but we did make it to the second round, and our first round opponent was the Detroit Pistons, as a matter of fact. We were able to dispatch them and move on to the second round. And that was my first time ever encountering the second round. And I can tell you, it was like, wow, am I going to have a chance to play for that coveted championship trophy now? Because you never know as a player. I've asked this question to a lot of guys that I know, that I'm personal friends with, that won championship. I've asked the question to Steve Smith. Brian Shaw is a good friend of mine. He's won a couple of championships. I've asked these guys, when you're in it, when you're in that season of a championship, do you have any feeling, or do you have any type of knowledge that you're going to win that year? And they all said, I even asked Joe Dumars after winning 2, he said he had no idea that they were going to win. They felt good about their opportunity. They felt like they had everything that they needed to win, but nobody knows, in fact, if they're actually going to win it. And all the guys that I've ever talked to said they had no idea. And that's why it's always a great surprise when you do win it.
You played 2 seasons there before you went to Detroit.
Yes.
Were you happy to be back home, headed back to Detroit? Or?
If I could be traded anywhere, I'd be happy to be traded back to Detroit, because here's the thing. When I got traded, I was actually on a cruise with my family, and we were out on the deck, and somebody came running out. That was a member of my family came running out and said, you got traded to Detroit. I said, what do you mean I got traded to Detroit? It's on ESPN. It's coming across the ticker right now. So I get up and I run inside, and it's still going on for the second time. It says Grant Long has been traded to the Atlanta Hawks, or to the Detroit Pistons, along with Stacey Augmon. Wow. So I get back after that 7-day cruise, and my general manager with the Atlanta Hawks tells me, hey, I tried to get a hold of you, but obviously if you're out at sea, there's no way that we can call you. I figured that there's a lot of places that you would want to go. Home would be probably the best place, so that's why he ended up trading me to Detroit.
Were you excited to get to playing with Grant Hill?
I got to play with Grant Hill at the time. My cousin Terry Mills was on the team, so it was one of those, I played with my cousin Terry in high school, so that was great to be reunited with him on our hometown Detroit Piston team. My uncle John Long played for 13 seasons in the NBA, and probably 9 or 10 of those were with the Detroit Pistons. So to be able to say, there was 3 family members that played on our local hometown Detroit Piston team, to me that was fulfilling. All 3 of us had a chance to play on that team. My uncle ended up winning a championship. He was on the 2nd championship team with the Pistons. So, like I said, to be part of that, to come home to be part of the Detroit Pistons, a team that I followed throughout my young life and even my adult life, to be part of that, to be part of something special was good.
And went to the playoffs, and ironically, you lost to your own team.
But here's the thing. I tell people this all the time. It's so funny that when I got traded to the Atlanta Hawks, I beat the Detroit Pistons. I got traded from the Hawks to the Pistons, and we beat the Atlanta Hawks. I actually went back to the Hawks for a second stint, and then came back and beat the Detroit Pistons in the playoffs again. As a matter of fact, it was Joe Dumars' final season, and it was our first round playoff. They were our first round playoff opponent, and we knocked them out in 5 games. And that was Joe Dumars' swan song.
Yeah, after that, you went to Vancouver.
Went to Vancouver is actually right. I was the first free agent signing to go to Vancouver. Little known fact.
Wow. And how did you oppose the trade, or are you just like, hey, I'm willing to go anywhere?
You know, to me, basketball is basketball, no matter where you play it. I've had, during my NBA career, I had several opportunities to go play overseas, and I turned those down. And some of them were even for more money, but I turned those down because there's nothing like playing in the National Basketball Association. I want to be right here on American soil playing in the best game that I think there is, and that's the NBA. Find that you're playing overseas, find that you're making a whole lot more money than I am, but at the end of the day, I'm playing in the NBA. Nobody can see you playing over in Saudi Arabia or wherever it is, right? Nobody can see you. The world gets to see me. We don't watch Tel Aviv basketball over here. We don't watch Saudi Arabia basketball over here. But turn on the TV over there, I bet they're watching NBA basketball. So I got a chance to play an NBA basketball that is a global entity, and I will always take that over playing overseas.
Did you enjoy playing in Vancouver?
It was probably one of the best stops in my 4 or 5 stops in the NBA. I'd never been in the city of Vancouver, British Columbia. It was a beautiful place. The people were very, very, very friendly. And the team was decent. We had some good players at that time. It was a young Mike Bibby, a young Sharif Abdul-Rahim. Big Country was there. So we had some good pieces, but they were just very, very young. And the powers that be, I guess, decided, you know what, we're not going to wait for this team to grow and mature. And the owner bought it and moved it to Memphis. But you know, you ask anybody in the NBA, you ask players right now today, and they'll say, there's one place that I wish the NBA still had a team, and it would be Vancouver, because it was just a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
I wonder why a lot of people just they want to play there. I remember Steve Francis got drafted, and he was like, I'm not going anywhere.
Well, I think that was one of those things that he was young, had no idea what Vancouver was like, and he was looking for something else. He's a guy that came from the D.C., Maryland area. He wanted to be somewhere in a metropolitan city, which Vancouver is not, though, one of those things. So he probably wanted to be somewhere where it was metropolitan, where he wanted to be around his kind of people that was doing whatever. And as you can see how his career ended up, he never really panned out to be what he was expected to be. And I think when you go back to his original thought of, when you think as a player, when you think as a person, that you can determine, I don't want to play here, I don't want to play here. When it's the NBA, whether it's in Vancouver, whether it's here or there, it's the NBA. If the team drafts you, you should take that with a lot of pride, that team put a lot of work into looking in your background and say, we want this guy. And for you to all of a sudden turn your nose up at that organization and say, I'm not playing there, I don't want to be drafted there. To me, I always looked at that as a very selfish act, and almost like a cowardly act. I could never see myself doing that.
And you played a few seasons there. Then the last stop was in Boston. That's when those guys are starting to peak. Paul Pierce,
yes.
Antoine Walker. Did you enjoy playing with those guys? Did you know that they were going to be, Pierce, on the other hand,
the truth,
a future Hall of Famer?
You know what? Paul was one of those guys that, from my first day, or I can remember my first day in playing in the game. I think we were down maybe 12 or 13 points going into the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter rather. And Paul comes to the side and said, "Don't worry about it. We're good." He was always one of those positive guys, and he said, "We've been here before." And he proceeded to just put the team on his back and just score and score and score. We ultimately ended up winning the basketball game, but that let me know a lot about Paul Pierce and his will to win. His objective to win is always that. And he's one of those guys that he practiced, but then after practice is when he really put in his work. He wanted to play a lot of one-on-one basketball. I played this guy countless times after practice, and he's just so good. Not a surprise that he is where he is. Not a surprise that he's a champion and will be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Okay, and after that, when did you know that this is it for me? When you retired?
You never really know. If they call me right now, I go back and play. That's how much I love playing NBA basketball. I'm very passionate about basketball. I still play every day. I'm very close to 50 years old, and it's a game that I just enjoy playing. I remember someone asked me, they saw me playing a pickup game, they asked me the question, are you going to continue to play this game until you get hurt? And I said, no, I'm just going to continue to play the game. I didn't play this game to get paid. I didn't play this game for all of the glory and all of the trappings that come with it. I started playing it because I just like to play. I like to compete. I like to put the ball in the basket. I like every aspect of playing basketball. So whether I'm playing with 4 other guys that are 4'5" against a whole team of 6'8" guys, I'm going to play because I just like to play the game. And you talked about, when did I know it was over? Well, in 2003, after that season with the Boston Celtics, I still wanted to play. And I remember going into the off season and getting ready to go back into the season for the 04. And there was no interest. I got a call from Larry Brown. He was with the 76ers at the time. And he wanted me to come in and play for his team. But he said I had to make the team. I said, Larry, I've been around. This is my 15th season. Make the team. You know what I can do. I have a proven track record of what I can do. Why would I take a contract to come in and make the team? So I was almost insulted by that. It wasn't a matter of pride. It was a matter of, I know how this business works. You're not going to have me come in and then on the last day cut me. That's a waste of my time. Either you're going to sign me, keep me on the team or not. And with that, it wasn't maybe 2 or 3 days after that I had an opportunity to do television. And then I thought to myself, am I going to wait this out and see if another team's going to call me? Because at that time, like I said, I had already played 15 seasons. The most I was going to play maybe 16, maybe 17 if I'm lucky. So the decision came for me was, do I try to string out another 2 more seasons in the NBA? Or do I start a new career that could go another 20 seasons with my broadcasting? So that's what I did. I said, no, I'm done with the NBA. I'm going to walk away from that, and I'm going to start a new career that starts to be broadcasting.
Here's the fun stuff. This is where we get to the fun stuff. Okay. Who was the biggest trash talker you ever played against?
Charles Barkley, easy. Charles Barkley and Larry Bird. Those are the 2 guys that I've always had to cover that talked and could produce, could back it up the whole time that they were playing. They could back it up. My first season in the NBA, I remember I was a big charge. I always took charges. And I remember standing in the middle of the lane, and here comes Charles Barkley right down the middle. And I guess he knew that I was going to take the charge. There was nothing he could do. And he put a knee in my groin that probably stunted the growth of my kids. That's how hard it was. And I got in the fetal position right around the foul line. I was curled up. And by the time I opened my eyes, and this is a true story, by the time I opened my eyes, he was standing over me, waving his finger saying, now I bet you won't take another charge. I continued to take charges, but that let me know that the NBA was all about being tough. You had to take charge. You had to stand up for yourself. And here comes Charles Barkley barreling down the center of the lane, and I still took that charge and got the foul on him. But to me, Charles is one of those guys that continued to talk trash, but like I said, he could back it up. He worked as hard on the defensive end as he worked on the offensive end of the floor. That's why he's always been, last question, who's the toughest guy you ever had to guard? It's always been Charles Barkley for that reason, because he works hard on the defensive end, doesn't take plays off, and he works extremely hard on the offensive end as well.
Did you have a favorite place to play? What's your favorite arena?
Wow. My favorite arena to play in was probably LA. Love being in the Forum. Fabulous Forum because you got to see all of the superstars. You got to see, before the game started, a lot of times we were looking around, even my teammates were looking around to see who came to see us play. Well, quite frankly, they probably didn't come to see us play. They came to see Magic and Kareem and James Worthy and those guys play. But we looked around and you got to see all the superstars. You got to see Jack Nicholson, Denzel Washington, all these people that came to watch the game. And it was always like, wow, we were always starstruck. I remember our coach at the time, Ron Rothstein, said, okay, I'm going to give you 2 looks to see who's in the stand, then you got to get your focus on the game. So we always got a chance during the timeout to kind of look around and see who was there in attendance at the games. It was always a lot of fun.
I'm going to name some guys. Just give me in less than 3 words. Just give them the description. Michael Jordan.
Best ever.
Reggie Miller.
Very good shooter, antagonist.
Charles Barkley.
Best player I've ever played against.
Patrick Ewing.
A beast of the East.
Magic Johnson.
He's my guy, all-time favorite.
Glenn Rice.
One of the best shooters the league has ever seen.
I got one for you. Eddie Jones.
Eddie Jones never really reached his potential, but the good reason he didn't was Kobe Bryant.
You played against Kobe too, bro.
Yes, I did.
Did you know he was going to be a star when he first came in?
You know what? You never know if you're going to be a star, but what you do know is if you put the work in, you have a chance to. And I know he's always willing to put the work in. He's a student of the game, works extremely hard. This is a guy, and I'm going to be real brief when I tell you this. This is a guy that if practice starts at 9 or 10 o'clock, he's there at 7 for 2 hours. He practices 2 hours, gets a massage, then practices 2 hours with the team, and then he practices another hour after the team goes. So this is a guy that's committed.
It's pure dedication.
He's committed to his sport. He's committed to being the best. So am I surprised at how he turned out in the career that he's had? I'm not surprised because he's always had that work ethic. He's always said, I want to be the best guy that takes the floor every time I take the floor. I don't think he's going to get an argument from a whole lot of people that he is the best guy when he takes the floor.
What do you miss most about the NBA?
I think what everybody misses. You could ask me a score, I couldn't tell you. You could ask me, who we played against, this, and I couldn't tell you. I remember maybe 5 things about my NBA career. The first time I had 30 points against Dominique Wilkins, he came to me in my rookie year and he said, you're going to have a great career in this league if you can continue to do that. I only reached 30 points maybe twice after that. But I remember that. I remember him saying that to me. I remember the first time I got 20 rebounds because as a power forward, that's almost the high water mark. You always want to try to get 20 rebounds in a game. And I can remember I got those 21 rebounds in New York playing against Charles Oakley. And he came to me after that game and shook my hand and said, welcome to the club.
Oakley?
Yes. Oakley and I have a long relationship that go back many, many, many years. And for him at that time to come, it's Charles Oakley, as you said, that's the bruiser of the league. And he comes to me and shakes my hand and says, welcome to the club. Because he had gotten 20 rebounds plenty of times before that. That was my first time ever doing it. So I remember that very vividly that I got 20 rebounds. And then you talk about all of the stories that we share on the bus, on the airplanes, and things like that. That's the thing that I missed and remember most. Being with those guys, the amount of time that I was with them. I spent more time with my teammates, more likely, than I did with my family. So there were a lot of stories that we exchanged. We got to know guys on a personal level, beyond the court. We got into their lives. They got into my life, and that's the fun part about being on a team that stays together for a while.
And since the show's called Where Are They Now, you gotta let everybody know what you've been up to.
Man, I've been doing a whole lot. I wrote a book called Driving Lessons, and it's pretty much all the lessons, the life lessons that I taught my 2 sons. I've got 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, so I dedicated the book to my 2 sons. And I called it Driving Lessons because unlike everybody else, when they're sitting around their dinner table at 6 or 7 or 5 o'clock, they're talking about all the things that went on in their day and this and that, and dad or mom may be interjecting some things, that some words of wisdom or whatever. That never happened with my boys and myself. We were always, during my time, going to practice, going to the airport, picking me up from the airport. It was always, or I'm taking them to practice, or football, basketball, whatever. We were always in the car. So I always took that time to turn the radio off and talk to my 2 boys while I'm in the car with them. Hey, this is what's going on with you guys. Who's doing what? How is this going? Trying to give them some life lessons. Hence the title, Driving Lessons, because most of the lessons that I taught my boys, we were driving. So that's where the title came from. So I feel good about that. I feel very good about that book. I also do some public speaking, motivational speaking. I speak to men's group across the country. I do a lot of men's retreats throughout the summer during the off season. But my #1 job is I'm an analyst for the Detroit Pistons, Fox Sports Detroit. I have a great time doing that. I work with George Blaha, Greg Kelser. If you follow the Detroit Pistons, you know that they are very close to being a very, very good team once again. They've won 3 championships in the organization's history, back-to-back with the Bad Boys, and then Joe Dumars, the former general manager president. got the team a championship under his watch, and they're trying to get back to that now with head coach Stan Van Gundy, and I think they're on the right track.
So I want to thank you for coming on and talking to me.
No problem, man.
I enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon.
Peace.